Good morning. I'm Dr. Deborah Watson, Innovation Manager at Business West. Business West is a certified B Corp aiming to make the region the best place to live, learn and work. We offer a range of support services and programs to help businesses grow, innovate and export. In today's webinar, if you'd like to ask any questions, please post them in the Q&A, and we'll also be recording today's session. Now, when you're trying to grow and scale your business, time and resources are limited, and the focus is often on the present. This webinar series with AWS looks at future-proofing your business, helping to navigate some of the greatest challenges businesses face today on themes like sustainability and data security. Today, in our last session of the series, we'll be looking at future fit innovation and AI. Artificial intelligence is transforming how businesses operate, unlocking new opportunities for efficiency, personalisation and innovation. Yet only 8% of businesses engage in core practices that support the widespread adoption of AI. Hopefully after today, that score will be a little higher amongst all of you. Now, with some possible answers, we're delighted to welcome from Amazon Web Services, Senior Solutions Architect Mohammed Kass, and later we'll hear from the Territory Manager, Max Bonnet. Welcome and good morning to you all. Over to you, Mohammed.
Thank you. I am Mohammed Kass. I am a Senior Solutions Architect here at AWS. I work day in and day out with companies like yourself. So very glad to be here and very glad to talk about AI. Right, okay, look, so as I was saying, I am Mohammed Kass. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect at AWS. I work in the small and medium business team. So that means I work with customers like yourself every day. Some days we talk about servers, some days we talk about databases, but recently a lot of what we've been talking about is AI. So that leads to the question, what is AI? I don't think it needs an introduction. I think we've all seen that. You can create new content and ideas. You can have conversations with it. You can ask it to create some stories, some images, videos, music. You can do a whole lot of different things when you are talking about AI, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I will talk about today is I will talk about how you can actually get hands-on. So as Deborah was saying, how you can actually get started right now. And then as you get started, how do you do prompt engineering? Because a big part of getting these models to behave the way you want them to behave is by saying the right words in the right tone. So we're going to talk about a little bit about how you can do that. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about how you can do this responsibly, because as I say, with great power comes great responsibility. If you can create paintings in the style of anyone, if you can create a conversation in the voice of anyone, should you? And what are the different barriers and what are the different ethics that you need to be thinking about? So to get started, I'll just start a little bit about the AWS stack for AI/ML. As you can see, we've got a number of different services. So right at the bottom, we've got different frameworks that you need to be looking at. We have different GPUs. We've got our own custom silicon as well. If you move slightly up, we've got the Amazon SageMaker. This is our one-shop tool for doing AI and ML. So starting from getting the data, to labeling the data, to building the models, to getting the predictions. So we've got a whole load of suite. And then on top of it, we've got our AI services. So right at the top left, you'll see there are things like Amazon Personalised. So whenever you are binge watching Netflix or you are binge watching Amazon Prime, and it suggests the next episode that you need to do, that is Amazon Personalised. Every time you are using your credit card for a transaction, and it sometimes sends you a notification saying, oh, this was a bit suspicious, that is Amazon Fraud Detector. So we've had these tools for over a decade now, actually. And the reason why I'm bringing them up is that there is a whole suite of things. So if you think that, hey, I have a use case, but I don't think it's really a generative AI use case, then that's not a problem at all, because there are a whole number of different tools available as well to do that. That said, we are here to talk about AI. So let's talk about AI then. The main service from AWS is called Amazon Bedrock. It is an API-based service that you can use to build generative AI applications using the large learning models through a serverless service. Serverless service means you don't need to worry about any servers, you don't need to worry about any databases, you don't need to train your own models. You just send a command and it gives you the answers back. So essentially you choose a model. We have a wide variety of models. I think I'm going to talk about that in a second. We have a number of different models, so you can pick whichever model you want. We have a playground as well, so you can actually test your prompts against different models from Facebook, from Google, from Anthropic, from all the different leading models to see which one you like. I always suggest customers to try the models as it is first. The reason being that the models are actually quite good, so you might find that you don't really need to do fine-tuning. But if you do need to fine-tune because you are in an industry that has very specific vocabulary or very specific style of writing, then yes, of course, you can actually customize it as well. Once the model is ready, you can then send it a prompt, just a simple API call, like you would call anything else, and you can get the response. That is it. You don't really need to worry about any of the infrastructures or training the models. So of course, the benefits, you do get a lot of different models, easy to customize. We have managed agents and RAG, which I will talk about in a bit. And then also, as with everything AWS, it is super secure. And I think we've got a couple of slides on that. So talking about the leading models. So single API, and the key part is that you don't need to change any infrastructure. So if tomorrow you realize that a new company has made a new large learning model, which is even better for a use case, you just swap a couple of things in the API call, and that is it. You don't need to change anything else. So I think that's pretty powerful, because that means that almost all of your applications and all of your data can just stay as it is. And you just make a single tweak to the API that you're calling, and it can then call a different API. All of this is available today. So anyone who has an AWS account can use Amazon Bedrock. It is HIPAA compliant. So a lot of the questions that I get from customers is that, can I put health data in there? Yes. I mean, HIPAA is a US certification, but that's because we do not have any equivalent certification in the UK. But it is HIPAA compliant for health data. It is GDPR compliant as well. And these slides would say that we are pre-announcing Llama 2, which is the Facebook's model that is no longer a pre-announcement as of last night, because these are available now. So talking about the models, we've got a number of different models. So from AI21, from Anthropic, from Cohere, from Meta, from Stability, from Amazon, and we're not done yet. We are going to keep on adding more and more models. Why? Because we believe that a single model cannot do everything that we want you to do. So for example, there might be cases where the Meta AI's model is better for you. There might be cases where the Anthropic's Claude 2 might be better for you, or perhaps Claude 3 when it arrives. For some things, the Amazon's own model, Amazon Titan, might be better. So we do provide you a variety just so you can actually play around with it and test whichever one is the best for your use case. I did talk about data previously. You are always in control of your data. The customer data is never used to improve the Amazon Titan models, and it is not shared with any other model provider. So all the data that you send to any of these models, it is yours. It is not used for anything else. So I've talked about the models, and I think we've already used the models. I think we've all been on these different chat websites, and we've had a chat with the model. So that sounds great. If you want to have some general conversation, but what if you want to actually get some data or some answers based on your own knowledge bases, or based on your own data? For that, we have an inbuilt capability for retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, or RAG, depending upon your pronunciation. What it does is that it actually connects these models to your data sources. So Amazon OpenSearch to Redis Enterprise Cloud to different data sources. It connects your large learning models to those data sources. And then it allows you to grab that data as and when you provide the responses. What that means is that the Bedrock agents will identify the appropriate data sources, retrieve the relevant knowledge information based on the user input, incorporate that knowledge into the user query, and then provide a more accurate response. What it also does is it also provides source attribution to improve transparency and to minimize hallucinations. And now, for the first time, you can do a one-click deployment, a one-click setup, where the large learning model is going to give answers based on your own corporate or enterprise data, based on your own personal data. So you might be thinking, oh, okay, that is great, but how do I actually just build a whole application? You can do that as well using Bedrock agents as well. With a few clicks, agents for Bedrock can configure your large learning model to automatically break down and orchestrate tasks without any manual code. So what it does is it actually securely connects to your company's data sources through an API. It converts your data into a machine-readable format and then augments the user request with the relevant information to generate a more accurate response. What is happening in the background is that the agents in Bedrock are taking action to fulfill the user's request by executing API calls on your behalf. So it is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but again, you do not have to worry about it because this, again, is a managed service for you. So you do not have to worry about the infrastructure. You do not have to worry about the integration. You just point and click, and Amazon Bedrock is going to write all of the code and all of the integration that it needs to do to get the right data or to do whatever action it needs to do in your corporate system. Lastly, I did say that you should always try with the models as it is because they are, from what I've tried, they are actually really, really good. However, if you find that the models need to be fine-tuned, then you can do that as well. Again, once the model has been fine-tuned, it can be invoked the same way as the non-fine-tuned model via the playground or via the API. Right now, it is supported for the Amazon's own models, but support for other models like that of Facebook or of Anthropic Claude will be enabled over time. And anyone who has access to the Amazon title model will have access to fine-tuning. So it is all available in preview right now. It should be going GA pretty shortly. So that was quickly about how you can actually use some of the generative AI models on AWS to get started today. But I think the bigger question is, okay, sure, I have a model, but then how do I actually use it? What prompts do I need to tell? If I wanted to do a very specific action, I don't want it to just give me a chat back, right? So how do I actually force it to do what I want to do? And that's what I'll be talking about. So I'll be talking about the prompt engineering. So what is a prompt? Prompt is a text input that you provide to an AI system and that then elicits a response. Prompt engineering is a natural language processing technique to craft those prompts. And why? Because you want to steer these large learning models towards the desired responses. And that's actually quite a key thing because it enables fine-grained and strategic control over your model's behaviors. It targets desired capabilities, and it also mitigates risks. If you look at a typical prompt structure, so you have some instructions. In this case, the instruction is that you need to act as an IT technical expert providing customer service. You have some context that you work in a support line of a tech company. You then have a user input, and then you have an output indicator, which means that this is a point from where the large language models need to take on. And so you might be saying, oh, okay, that's fine. I can actually just write some English and I can just write some stuff for like a big paragraph and big chunk, and it should be fine, right? Well, turns out the format of the prompt actually matters a lot. So models are much better at using relevant information at the beginning or the end of the context, but not in the middle. So as you can see this graph, the performance decreases significantly when the models must access and use information located in the middle of the prompt. So you need to be actually going either to the needing to put the information at the front of the prompt or towards the end of the prompt, but not in the middle, because it just gets a bit muddy and it gets a bit harder for the learning model to actually use it. Right. So this is a generic thing, but let's just look into something more specific and see how you can actually do some prompt engineering for some of the other tools. So let's have a look at Anthropic Claude, which is one of the models that is available today. And I think you might have, I think a lot of people have already played with it on Claude.ai. So it's like it's exactly the same model that you get on Claude.ai. It is available in Bedrock. It is a model that is very good at dialogue and role play, text summarization, translation, RAG, coding tasks, classification. So it does the whole lot. But how do I actually use it? First, you need to provide it clear and direct instructions. So, for example, a golden rule is that give your prompt to someone who does not have a context about what you're trying to do and ask them how they interpret it. And if they can interpret your instructions correctly, then it means that your command is good. Now, there are some things that you can do as well. So in this example, you can see that it says the human says write a haiku about robots, assistant says a haiku about robots, and then it gives you the haiku. Now, it might be that you are actually using the large language model in a website. So for example, you are asking people to, well, let's just say that there is this website where you are allowing people to generate poems, right? Now, here is a haiku about the robots. That is probably something that you don't want to give to the people. So what you can do is you can actually then tell the model to skip the preamble, go straight to the poem, and then you get the exact responses that you want. Similarly, you can also tell the models what it should pretend like when it is answering the question. So for example, you can, if you say, how is a US president elected, it can talk about the Electoral College, which gets a bit complicated. But you can then say, you are a kindergarten teacher. How is a US president elected? Once you've given it that prompt, it will then use simple and plain language. So you can assign roles to Claude to ask it to use the specific terminology for that role. Also, disorganized prompts are harder for Claude to comprehend. So for example, just like you are using a normal text and you use different section titles and headers to help the humans better flow your information, you should also use some XML tags to help Claude understand the prompt's structure. So for example, when you say in here, when you say, hey, Claude, show up at 6 a.m. because I say so, make them even more polite, it actually doesn't know what the actual email is. But here, when you give the tags in the second option, which says email, show up at 6 a.m. because I say so, close email, that then shows Claude what exactly it needs to make more polite. And as you can see, the answers that you're getting are very different because in the first instance, Claude didn't actually know what the email was and what it was supposed to make it polite. So it actually just gave a very muddled answer. Another thing you can do is you can actually use those tags to separate the data from the instructions. So you say, for example, in this case, the human is saying, I will tell you the name of animal. Please respond with the sound the animal makes, right? That's the command. But then you are using the animal tag to give the name of the animal. Now that means that it is very easy for Claude to say, okay, that's the animal. I need to give the sound for that particular animal. So as I've talked about before, we need to be using tags very carefully. We need to be talking about the assigning roles very carefully. But there are some other things as well. So imagine that you want to just get it to provide you some written code or JSON, and you don't want it to do some commentary, because typically when you ask these models to say, can you provide me code? And it says, hey, here is a bit of code. If you don't want that, you can then ask it to do, you can put it a tag. Once you put the tag in, it will then, in this case, like you said, the heiku tag, it will then just give you just the heiku, and that's it. And then it will close it. It won't do anything else. Now, one of the things that these models are good at, but not so good at, is reasoning, because they can use reasoning based on English language, but they can't do reasoning based on maths, because that's not what the models are trained on. So if you want the model to do a bit of reasoning, then you can ask it to do think step by step, like this. So in here, if you say, are both the directors of Jaws and Casino Royale from the same country? Let's think step by step. It can then actually think step by step. Now that if you are not getting good answers from your large learning models, then this might actually be a good option for you to use. Just take care that as you are getting more intelligent answers, but the latency might be increased. So the model might take a bit longer to give you the answers, because it actually needs to think step by step, and it needs to do a bit of reasoning. Now, the last one, which is probably the single most powerful thing you can do, is to use examples. So if you have a particular thing in mind, if you have a particular pattern in mind, if you have a particular style of language in mind, or whatever in mind, you should use the examples to tell the model how you are expecting it to give the answers. So for example, here you are giving it the code and then saying what the author is. And then you're giving it a different code and saying what the author is. And then it can give you the author, which is the Ted Chiang. So examples are so powerful sometimes that you don't even need to give it the task, because once you say code, author name, code, and then author name is blank, the model can just figure it out that, oh, actually you wanted to give the author name. Now, sometimes you might want to have a particular data in a particular format. Again, you can ask it to give the answer. Like, one of the things that might be quite interesting is that if you are building an application and the data that you've got is going to be understood by a machine. So for example, a machine needs a JSON or a HTML or a particular format, and you want that exact format every single time, then you must pass that format in as part of the command as an example, so that machine will know, the large learning model will know how exactly to respond. So that was a quick whistle-stop tour on how we can actually use prompt engineering. Now let's talk about how we can do this responsibly. As most of the transformation technologies of our generation, AI provides opportunities to be a force for good. It is still early days, because this has only been going on for a few months now, but we are seeing exciting use cases, from efficient energy utilization to conservation work to accelerated drug discovery to more sustainable material design. For example, in drug discovery and treatment startups like Noises Bio are using generative AI to accelerate their research and deliver more targeted drug delivery with fewer side effects. Using state-of-the-art deep learning, generative AI, and biochemistry, they can design a new class of molecules to localize treatments to the source of disease and minimize unwanted interactions. So there are a lot of positive things about it, but only if we use AI responsibly. So let's talk about the dimensions for responsible AI. What constitutes responsible AI is being debated globally and is constantly evolving. For AWS, we define responsible AI as being made up of 6 dimensions: bias and fairness, explainability, robustness, privacy and security, governance, and transparency. While this is our definition today, we will continue to iterate as the science and engineering of responsible AI matures. So bias and fairness. So here we consider how a system impacts subpopulations of users, for example, by sex, ethnicity, and language. We want to make sure there are no harmful disparities in system performance across subpopulations. Explainability. Whether the system offers a clear rationale for its decisions. Customers want justification for the inference provided by the AI system, which is particularly important for those with compliance requirements. Robustness. We'd like confidence that the AI systems cannot be easily fooled or confused. Success here means at least that we have understandable guidelines for when the system is expected to work. Privacy and security. Privacy and security are the highest priority at AWS for any service, whether that's AI or not. Use of machine learning brings potential risk to customer content and Amazon IP that may require preventative and mitigative steps beyond those taken in the normal course of protecting privacy and security. Governance. Processes to enforce and ensure responsible AI practices are being carried out amongst all stakeholders. And transparency. The extent to which an organization enables customers and end users to know whether or not they are using an ML-based application and to make informed choices about their use of ML application. Our commitment to develop generative AI in a responsible way is integral to our approach at AWS. We focus on 4 key areas. First, we want to help transform responsible AI from theory into practice and help operationalize across key elements of responsible AI. At AWS, we want to help unpack the key challenges that emerge with generative AI and provide the tools, guidance, and resources to both build and use generative AI responsibly. Second, responsible AI is an integral part of the entire end-to-end lifecycle of a foundation model, including design and development, deployment, and ongoing use. It is not something that can be done in a silo, but instead integrated across the lifecycle with a commitment to test, and test for accuracy, fairness, and other key responsible AI dimensions across your models. Third, prioritize education around how generative AI works and what its limitations are. Last year, we launched AI Service Cards, a new transparency resource to help customers better understand our AI services and provide one place to find the intended use cases and limitations, responsible AI design choices, and deployment and performance optimization best practices for our AI services. Finally, advance the science behind developing generative AI responsibly. At AWS, we know that generative AI technology and how it is used will continue to evolve, posing new challenges that will require additional attention and mitigation. Together with academic, industry, and government partners, we are committed to the continued development of generative AI in a responsible way. Altogether, we want to build generative AI that is safe, trustworthy, and helpful. We're also excited to share that Amazon has joined the White House technology organizations and other AI community to advance the responsible and secure use of AI. The White House met with leading AI companies to identify commitments related to the safe and responsible use of AI. And we have committed to the following voluntary commitments. Commit to internal external adversary style testing, known as red teaming, of models or systems in areas including misuse, societal risk, and national security concerns, such as bio, cyber, or other safety areas. Work towards information sharing among companies and governments regarding trust and safety risks, dangerous or emerging capabilities, and attempts to circumvent safeguards. Develop and deploy mechanisms that enable users to determine if audio or visual content is AI generated, including robust provenance, watermarking, or both for AI-generated audio or visual content. Invest in cybersecurity and insider safeguards to protect proprietary and unreleased model weights. Incentivize third-party discovery and reporting of issues and vulnerabilities. Publicly report model or system capabilities, limitations, and domains of appropriate and inappropriate use, including discussion of societal risks, such as effects on fairness and bias. And prioritize research on societal risks posed by AI systems, including on avoiding harmful bias and discrimination and protecting privacy. And lastly, to develop and deploy frontier AI systems to help address society's greatest challenges. And so, as we've been working with the technology, we have defined a number of best practices to build generative AI responsibly. These will continue to evolve, but they are a starter for 10 based on what we have learned today. First, focus in on the use cases. So how are you defining the use case for the customer? And remember, the more specific, the more narrow, the better. Because you can then more easily define fairness for your use case and develop training algorithms that enforce the definition. Second, prioritize education and diversity in your workforce. For example, in terms of human annotated training data, promoting diversity in the actual annotators is key because you want to make sure there is as much representation of different groups as possible. Third, we want to make sure we assess the risk because each use case has its own unique set of risks. Fourth, and I've said this before, test, test, and test. Each use case should have its own performance evaluation. And after time, it takes just as much time to come up with a testing system as it did to create the system itself. But you need to invest just as much time into that. Fifth, we want to make sure that we are iterating over the entire life cycle because there are many components and it really just continues over and over from conception stage to training and testing stages, all the way to deployment stage and finally getting feedback from your customer use cases and users to start back at the beginning. And lastly, we want to make sure that there are governance policies throughout the entire life cycle to ensure accountabilities and measures in place. Everything that I've spoken about for the responsible machine learning is actually applicable to the whole ML stack. For example, if you can see here, it's not just the AI, but if you look on the second line where it says vision, so Amazon recognition, it is a very powerful tool which can detect images, it can detect faces and detect people as well in videos and in still. That is a very powerful capability, but you need to use it responsibly. You need to think about what you are using it for. So the commitment to using AI responsibly goes beyond just the generative AI. It goes into any sort of technology that we use. So today we talked a little bit about how you can use AI on AWS. I talked about some of the services that we've got, and then I talked about some of the features. We learned that you can, of course, you can talk to a model, ask it questions, and get some answers based on generic information. But then within AWS, you can actually use some of our built-in tools called agents to actually get some answers based on your own corporate data without doing any of the undifferentiating heavy lifting. We will do all of that. You just put the data in a suitable location and point the models towards it. We then talked about how you can actually fine-tune the models as well using your own data. After that, we talked about prompt engineering on how you need to be very specific. You need to actually give the tags, you need to structure the data because unless you treat the model as, I always say, unless you treat the model as a kid and are very explicit with what you're asking it to do, you're probably not going to get the right answer. So be very explicit. And then we talked about responsible AI, where you need to talk about what data are you using, how are you using it for, and also that you need to test, test, and test. And with that, back to Deborah.
Thank you so much for that, Mohammed. So if anyone's got any questions, put them in the Q&A. We've got a couple appearing in there now. So do add any more if you're thinking about what Mohammed's been talking about. So first one for you. You said on route through that AI tools have been used for over 10 years at Amazon. So I guess Amazon's in this, it's not unique, but unusual position of both building AI capability for others and then using it themselves. And I guess sometimes what you use it for helps you know what to build next. So it's a sort of, you sort of learn what you need and then provide that to others, and you do that. So I'd be fascinated to know, what are the uses, you mentioned a couple, what are the other uses that Amazon use AI for? And then what are the most common uses you see in small businesses? Because, of course, Amazon is not a small business, and the people we work with are often smaller, much smaller than you.
Sure. Yes. Thanks for that. So yes, if you go back about 22 years, the foundation of AWS was that AWS was doing Amazon was doing a lot of stuff for itself, and it realized, hold on a second, if we have these problems and if we are struggling to solve these, surely other people are struggling to solve these as well. And that's how AWS was started. So that philosophy remains even today, where if we have a problem, we solve it, and then we say, oh, actually, it would be great if we could make it available to other companies. So technologies like fraud detector, that is a very common thing. So if you have signed up for Amazon recently, you will find that you get some free credits, you get like free Amazon Prime. And what people do is that they use different email addresses to sign up over and over again to get the free Prime. So one of the things that and this is how it started, Amazon Fraud Detector, was for us to detect how people, if it's the same person or not. Or sometimes people will get the delivery of a parcel, but then they will claim that they never got the delivery. So that's one of the things. That's Amazon Fraud Detector. Amazon Personalized, which is where if you go on Amazon and you buy something and then it suggests something else. So it is used extensively at AWS. And yeah, I think I always say that Amazon is one of the biggest customers for AWS, just because they are using pretty much everything, and they're a pretty hard customer as well because they are pretty demanding. In terms of the small businesses, there are a few things that we have seen. TextRect is one of the services that I have seen customers use a lot. TextRect is ML-driven OCR. So if you have a form that you need to scan, you can scan the form, but rather than it reading it as a normal text, it can actually then extract the key value pairs from it. So you can actually get all the information in a form in a machine readable use case. So that's one thing that I have seen a lot. I have also seen some of the security tools in AWS used a lot as well. So, and that's being used by small businesses as well, because there are a lot of tools, machine learning based tools, like GuardDuty and Macy in AWS that run in the background, and they just run there to block any attempts for compromising the account for the customer. So quite a few times customers have come back to us and said, oh, I'm so glad I turned that service on, because last night I got a notification that someone was trying to access my account from Russia, but I'm so glad that I had the service turned on because they weren't able to get in. So yeah, it's a quite a big variety of services that customers use.
Okay, so there's a lot of options there for people. One of the questions I've got here is literally, how do I get started? Is the summary. So where should, if you're a business that hasn't integrated AI, how do you make the case for integrating AI, particularly into a traditionally risk-averse business that doesn't want to do it? And then how do you start the process of making this work?
Yes, so I think the best way to get started is to so if you have an AWS account, or if you don't, you can just create an AWS account. Once you create an AWS account, you can go. I'm just almost wondering if I should just quickly go to the console to show that. Would that be good? Okay, can we just move to the next question? In the meanwhile, I will spin up. I will just log in, and we can have that.
No, I'll let you. The next questions coming in is a question about how do you see AI changing business models?
Right. Okay. So AI changing in business models is that it can actually allow you to do a lot of the resource intensive things without using a lot of resources. So for example, I'm not going to say that, contrary to some people who say that, well, actually you are no longer going to need software developers. I have been using the AI-enabled tools to write code, and it makes me write code faster. But if I didn't know what I was doing, if I was not a software developer, if I didn't know how to do software development, I do not believe that I will be able to actually go in and use it. So I think it's still going to support the people to be more productive. If you are, let's say, if you are, say, for example, a translation business, then you can actually get the AI to do translation and then get the human to do the checking, so that a few translators can do more of the translation. But I think not right now. You won't be able to just not completely get rid of them, get rid of people, because you still need the people for the QA. Sorry, so let me just quickly share my screen if I can see that. I think it's going to be this screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Right. Okay, look. So this is the. Can you see my console window? My browser.
Some of it. I can see 2 tabs across the top. That's about it.
Okay. Can you not see the window? Right. Can you not see where it says Amazon Bedrock?
Yes, I can see Amazon Bedrock.
Yeah, that one there. Okay, so so this is when you log into AWS, and you click on Amazon Bedrock, this is the website that you end up with. On here, you've got different things. So you've got like chat and text, and these are just the playground. So for example, if I look at text, I can then go into Anthropic and I can pick some model I want, and I can say, so some of the things that we were talking about earlier, right? So write haiku about steam engine, because why not? And I can do a run, and it will take a couple of minutes and get me the answers. In the meanwhile, let's have a look at the API command. So this is what I was talking about. So we've got the prompt, and then it says human, and human is writing a haiku, and that's it. So this is if you're integrating that into your business, that's all you really need to do. You just need to send this command, an API command. Here you go. You have an haiku. Now this, as you saw, was a bit slow. So you've also got, for stuff like that, you've also got Claude instant. So I can do that. And if I ask it to write a haiku again, it's going to be a lot faster. Now I can write a haiku of 10 lines about a steam engine. I don't think technically you can have a haiku more than 3 lines, but why not? Here you go. Now, what I was talking about earlier, if you need to do that, I can then do, sorry, I didn't want that. I can do an assistant, and then I can do, I was going to do some tags, but I keep pressing that at the wrong minute. But yes, so essentially, this is how you get started. You can do, sorry, I wanted to do this tag. Once you do a tag, it can write this and then finish it off with a tag. So you can actually I've actually basically just guiding it to do what I wanted to do. So yeah, essentially that's how you get started. We have a number of different providers from AI21 Labs and Anthropic, but as always, just go here, start playing around with the different models, see which ones you like, and take it on from there.
So if you've got a Bedrock account, a novice can get started.
Any AWS account, yes. Any AWS account, yes.
But what's your and is there built-in guidance and sort of training materials within Bedrock?
Yes, there is a lot of documentation inside Bedrock. Yes.
Lovely. So basically, anyone can get started, but your use cases will depend partly on your own knowledge as to how you can use that and embed it in what you're doing.
Absolutely, yes.
So that makes a lot of sense. And I've got a couple of other questions coming in while we were talking about that.
Sure.
So first of all,
how do I stop sharing? Oh, here you go. Right. Yes.
So you're back with us. So a couple of we just talked about learning and sharing. So I'm going to switch quickly to, can you recommend any prompt engineering courses with reputable course providers?
There is one which you probably knew that was coming. So AWS has its own machine learning university that has a lot of prompt engineering courses. So that's probably something that you can do. On top of that, I think the usual places like Udemy and whatnot, I think they have a lot of courses. So, but as always, I would probably say if you just create an account, or if you go to claude.ai and just play with it, because even the people who are writing the courses have only known this for a few months because this thing didn't exist. So it's not like that there is any expert out there. It's everyone is just learning as we go along.
Yeah, it's all moving so quickly, isn't it? So another question: what's the best use cases you've seen using AI? We touched on that a little bit. So not only the best use cases, but what is your favorite use case? What is your favorite use of AI and the best ones you've seen generally?
So some of my favorite use cases is, so there is one use case where there is a online part online marketplace, so Amazon and similar to Amazon, where if you are like me and you're not that creative and you struggle to make up something catchy to sell your products, you literally go on there, you type in t-shirt, multiple colors, multiple designs, press enter, and it can actually generate a lot of the text for you. It can even change the tone for depending upon how you want to sell it. So I think there are some really nice use cases where you can actually essentially just get some responses, and they are like very quick responses. My least favorite though are the chatbots, because I personally believe that if you make a website really nice, you don't really need to have a chatbot. So if you have a chatbot, it means that it's lacking some functionality in your website.
I quite like that as a comment. that matches my experience. I've got two more questions, and they are perfect for the right order here. So we've already touched on use cases and prompt engineering. So the next question is about the protecting people. So what are the steps taken by Amazon to protect people from the danger of artificial intelligence?
Yes. So a number of things. So when I was talking earlier about Amazon Recognition, which was our machine learning tool. So a while back, when we realized that it has the potential for being misused by some law enforcement agencies, and I think that was within the context of all the things that were globally happening earlier. We put a moratorium that exists even today. So no law enforcement. Let me start again. No law enforcement agency anywhere in the world is allowed to use our facial recognition services, and that's just a blanket ban, because we just thought that the safeguards that need to be there to protect the general public from the organizations are not there. On top of it, we are actively working with the government. So we were part of the AI Summit in the UK. We are part of the AI Summit in the White House. We are working with the EU. We are working with Canada. So we are working with all the different organizations to actually help them develop the laws. And we are going with the knowledge of the technology. We are saying this is the potential of the AI. This is what AI can do. And this is what AI can do on the negative side as well. And we think that's what the laws are. And at that point, it just gets handed over to the politicians to actually make the laws. But yeah, we are working very carefully, because we believe that we do need some regulation, and we need that pretty quick.
Pretty quick. Last question from Mohammed, which is a very nearly a yes/no answer. Do you see AI creating more jobs than it eliminates?
Probably yes. And it's just because we're gonna be able to do a lot of new stuff that we haven't been able to. So I always think about like the horse and the cart. So it was a bad thing for the cart owners and the horse owners when the car came along, but cars are a massive industry right now. They employ millions of people across the world. So I think we are going to see more things, and I think it's going to improve our quality of life as well. So for example, with the new drugs and whatnot, I think it's going to improve the quality of life, but that also means that if you do have a new drug to treat people, then you do need new doctors and more nurses. So I think it's not really going to impact the jobs, but it's just going to make the jobs easier, and we can just get away with not doing the boring stuff.
So AI, a force for good, I think was one of your first slides. So that's where we end there. The next comment in the chat is just my perfect segue. It says, fascinating capabilities, but I think I need help in even just identifying where and what AI can do in my business to completely re-engineer my business. So it isn't a question, it's more of a comment, but that comment is help. Max, help.
Help is at hand. Yeah, no, thanks, Deborah, for the introduction. Thanks, Mohammed. So, hi everyone. I'm Max. I'm an account manager working particularly in the Southwest and Wales of the UK here at AWS. And I'd love to speak to you about either your AWS environment in general or the topic of the day, which is AI ML. So if you have a specific use case, we're very happy to arrange a kind of technical call to deep dive, into your use case. But on the lines of help, where do I start? Even if you don't have a defined use case, we'd love to speak to you anyway. We'd love to look at your business objectives, your goals, your challenges, and kind of work backwards to see, okay, can AI ML actually be a solution or a potential avenue to explore? We're having lots of these customer conversations with our customers, and it would be great to speak to all of you. So please do get in touch. There'll be a link that you can get in touch via Business West, and then I'll follow up to introduce myself, and it would be great to speak to you all. So yeah, looking forward to hopefully speaking to you all soon about AI ML and AWS.
Lovely job. Well, thank you so much, Mohammed, for your content today, and Max for the offer for support for anyone who needs it. Alongside the further opportunities that Max has just outlined from AWS, Business West also offer a range of support services and programs to help businesses grow and innovate more generally. Please do get in touch via the email address to find out more, and we will put you in touch with AWS as and when appropriate. Today's session was the last in the Business West and AWS series on future fit innovation. If you'd like to catch up or rewatch any of our earlier sessions, including sustainability and data security, you can do so on the Business West YouTube channel. I'm hoping that QR code on screen takes you right there. So finally, thank you to our guests, Mohammed and Max, today, and thank you for joining Business West. Have a lovely day.